Hey YouTubers, it's Law and Smoke Professor Walker, and it is a cold, wet, little damp, but beautiful Sunday morning, and I'm smoking my Sunday Sarah Jacopa with some Elizabethan mixture in it. Well, every Sunday morning, part of my routine is I come sit outside, have a smoke, maybe talk to you guys, or maybe just sit out here. Well, this morning before I came outside, I was looking at Twitter, which I don't do a lot on Twitter, but I check it out, follow the Breyer Report, follow George Bruno, Gray Bailey, and a few others. And I noticed a tweet from George Bruno that caught my attention, and he had tweeted about James Comey testifying before Congress, and there's so much other stuff in the news that kind of I don't think it didn't get as much attention as maybe as it would if there wasn't so many other things happening. But apparently, Mr. Comey was testifying before a congressional committee and couldn't remember anything. Didn't remember, don't remember, don't remember, don't remember. And George had tweeted, hey, he wrote a tell-all memoir, but yet then suddenly can't remember everything. And I think it's kind of an important thing for us as Americans, no matter what your political stripe is, to realize that the law is not really being applied evenly depending on who you are. If you as a private citizen are interviewed by the Department of Justice and FBI investigators, they will absolutely prosecute you for lying to them if at any point they determine that something you said in that interview is untrue, which is very different from local law enforcement, because I was a local law enforcement officer. I was not a federal officer. And people lie to us in interviews. That's what they do. The expectation is they're lying to us, and we are supposed to sift through the lies, but we cannot arrest them for lying. The state of Arizona, where I was a police officer, has a statute with which most states have some sort of statute like this about providing false information to an officer, but that's something that's limited to identification, given a false identification when the police have a legal reason to identify you. So that's one little tiny area, which is one that makes sense. The police need to be able to figure out who's who when they have cause to. But a blanket, you're untruthful, and from what we've seen from some of this stuff that's been going on lately, there are people that are pleading guilty, and it goes back even to the Martha Stewart issue of they're not being charged with an underlying crime. There's not enough evidence, or sometimes no evidence, that actually any underlying crime was committed, but they are being criminally charged with lying to the FBI, lying to federal investigators, and looking at possible prison time for that. And so they end up taking plea deals just based upon the lie, and then it looks like there's a conviction, and it bolsters whatever case someone has. This is massive, massive government overreach, in my opinion, that someone can just be charged with lying to the FBI if you misremember a date. And what the government has been doing, and this is not just in this Donald Trump collusion, this is why, if whether you're a liberal or a conservative, this should alarm you, because if you get interviewed by the FBI or the Department of Justice, they can do a perjury trap on you, where they already have some knowledge, and they have knowledge of events, timelines, and then get you to commit to, hey, saying this happened at this time, or I spoke to this person at this time. And then when it turns out there was something about that timeline that you don't remember correctly. Well, now we've got you for perjury. We got you, well, not for perjury, for lying in court, but we've got you for lying to the FBI. And they've been very successful at this, very successful for years in setting what they call perjury traps, um, to ask questions they already know the answers to, just to try to get you to slip up in some way and not even necessarily intentionally lie, um, misspeak, misremember. And one of the reasons I will never, under any circumstance, speak with federal investigators is this issue, combined with the fact that my memory is crap. It absolutely is. All the time, if somebody were to ask me really basic, simple questions, timeline issues about maybe something that had been done the previous week or the previous month, I don't always remember it. As a matter of fact, I would say it's more likely than not I would have difficulty remembering exactly when something occurred, beyond the here and now. And I don't know if I'm unusual in that way, but I don't really think I am. I think a lot of us struggle with chronology and exactly when did this event take place? Did you talk to this person first? What exactly was said? And we may not remember exactly, or we remember just flat out incorrectly. So when James Comey writes a tell-all book about his experiences in the White, working for the president and his, life as a FBI director, but yet then he doesn't testify in front of Congress. He mostly just doesn't remember things. There's a reason. He's aware of these perjury traps, and he doesn't want to mess up. He would ask you, as a citizen, to testify, to answer questions. But when it comes to Mr. Former Director, they don't want to answer those questions. They don't want to be caught in the type of trap that they like to set for people. So local police officers come have questions about some incident or something. If I haven't done anything wrong, I'm perfectly comfortable answering those questions, because if I misspeak or misremember, I'm not in some sort of legal jeopardy. But when it comes to the FBI or the feds, absolutely not. Wouldn't speak to them, would not give the interview, and would never recommend to anyone to talk to them in this environment. And I'm not a lawyer, never been a lawyer, don't want to be a lawyer. So my advice is not legal binding advice. You should talk to an attorney if you're in legal trouble. But my just advice as somebody who's worked in the justice system is I wouldn't talk to. I would not be interviewed by them. So thanks, George, for getting my mind going a little bit this morning. And hopefully, if you're listening this morning, I know this video is a little longer than my normal ones. I try to keep them, like 3 to 5 minutes. This is stretching a little longer. Hopefully this never happens, that you're being interrogated by the feds. But if you do, just keep that in mind. If something ever happens where, you're talking to federal law enforcement, you gotta be very, very careful of what you say. Or you'll find yourself in a position like some of these people are right now. So that's all for this morning. I'm about to get back to my Sunday Sarah Jacopa and a little Elizabethan mixture before we get going on our day. All right, Law and Smoke, I'm out.